In the House of Representatives, the anointed choices of the ruling All Progressives Congress for Speaker and Deputy Speaker emerged victorious, just as was the case in the upper chamber. It was an overwhelming victory for the pair of Tajuddin Abbas and Benjamin Kalu in the House of Representatives. The National Assembly, where a former governor of Akwa Ibom State and one-time Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Godswill Akpabio, was last week elected President of the 10th Nigeria Senate. In his inaugural comment in that capacity, Senator Akpabio promised to run an all-inclusive Senate that will surpass the expectations of Nigerians. Arise correspondent Omo Bazuaye reports. President Bola Tinubu has also signed into law the Students' Loan Bill. The bill, which was sponsored by the immediate former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, passed the third reading in the House 2 weeks ago, we're told. The law aims at providing easy access to higher education for indigent Nigerians through interest-free loans from the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. A spokesman for the president, Dele Alake, made the announcement. Away from electoral matters, a former Niger Delta militant, Mujahid Dokubo Asare, has accused the Nigerian military of being directly responsible for the rampant oil theft in the Niger Delta. After meeting with President Bola Tinubu, Asare said he assured the president that there will be no more incidents of oil theft and vandalization in the oil-rich Niger Delta region. Now, for an overview of all these stories, we're now being joined by lawyer, arbitrator, tutor, and civil rights activist, Dr. Kayode Ajulo. Dr. Ajulo, thank you very much for joining us on This Day Live, this Sunday talk show. Okay, where do we begin? Maybe we'll begin.
My pleasure.
Seriatim. Let's start with the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly. The APC proclaimed that it had chosen its anointed persons. And we saw in the National Assembly those same anointed persons being elected in the Senate. And also, in fact, something more dramatic happened in the House of Representatives, where Tajuddin Abbas and Benjamin Kalu won overwhelmingly. Even the opposition parties joined the APC to vote for Tajuddin Abbas, whose two wives almost disrupted the ceremony with their own side drama of their own. But the concern is that Nigerians are saying that, look, this is going to be another rubber stamp assembly. Tajuddin Abbas was talking about working in harmony with the executive. The uncommon transformer, as he calls himself, the Senate president of the 10th Assembly, says, in fact, he too will work with Bola Ahmed Tinubu to pursue his agenda. What do you think about that process that produced these persons?
Well, let's start from the fact that the National Assembly have been inaugurated. And once it is being inaugurated, it's expected that the principal officer has to be elected so that they can oversee and to coordinate the affairs of the National Assembly, be it to the Senate and the House of Representatives. And as expected, there are a lot of horse trading that has gone under, particularly when it comes to issue of interest and whatever it is. Though a lot of people will say that why has queried the issue that why should the presidency be more involved in what is going on in the National Assembly. But the truth of the matter is this. Their constitution even allows check and balances, and there's a place where they can work together. So as it is, with what I believe we need to interrogate is what actually are the interests. The interest for insisting that it has to be a particular candidate that must be and sit over the affairs of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And when we looked at it, we know what's happened from the beginning, where we have the president being a Muslim and the vice being a Muslim, and the fear that, let's just put it that that's the explanation put out, that it would be better to have somebody who is a Christian to head the other legislative house. So that be it. what matters most here is the entirety of the House, that the Senate and the House of Representatives, voted. They cast their ballot, and it's quite transparent. I think we have kudos for the given to them, and it's so clear who the winner is, irrespective of whether it is dedicated or whether it is arranged. But the full clear, we can see what really happened. So I think what we should be more interested in is to know where do we go from there? What are we going to do? So the Senate president has already promised to work hand in hand to ensure that Nigeria move forward and to bring out a laudable laws, discussion, robust one. And we are waiting. It will be too early to judge and to cast any form of opinion on that.
Well, I mean, I don't want you to dismiss the concern that has been raised by Nigerians. Nigerians are saying, are we going to have another rubber stamp assembly? Because you will recall that when President Muhammadu Buhari came into government in 2015, the National Assembly then, upon assumption of office, was not on his side. But in 2019, the National Assembly that followed said that this National Assembly will be a rubber stamp assembly. And that was more or less, what the assembly did under Ahmad Lawan and Gbajabiamila. So Nigerians are saying, what is the guarantee that this anointed National Assembly will be independent? Do you think that we can hope differently?
Well, maybe my opinion may be a little bit different, and I say this from the fact that having participated and to have seen the internal working of some political parties, then I may a little bit differ from whether the assembly will be a rubber stamp or not. What matters most in any democratic dispensation, particularly political interest, is that interest. And here, unfortunately, may not be interest of Nigeria, even where two of them sat together to decide is what it is. Once there is an interest or there is an interest overlapping, the issue of rubber stamp will not be. So the question, and I think what we should be fixated on, and what I believe we should try as much as possible to pursue and to critically look, is what are the interests that will be bring forth to bear. That is, to me, what I think we should be thinking. Is that certainly they belong to the same political party. Certainly we have a ruling party, and they are in a huge majority. So it is expected that whatever there will be done, they've seen that just allow it to go, let it pass, like what we call rubber stamp. But even despite this issue of rubber stamp, there are still some interests that will be clashing. Those interests is what I think we should be more interested in. Either this interest is for the people interest or for the other people's interest, or is there no interest at all? And again, we have to look at the quality of that representation. I think that's what it is. From years all over, except they are pursuing their personal agenda that may contradict whatever they have. That's when they will always deceive us to say that they are fighting each other. But when their interest is in tandem, you hardly see anyone fighting. Even during the Buhari and Governor Sarakis, despite the fact that they seem not to be on the same table. But you find that at some time they say up where. When it comes to looting, when it comes to doing all those, their interests, they are always having had in them consensus interest. And I think that is what we should check and interrogate here.
Okay, Dr. Ajulo, let me open up the question a bit wider. I mean, a lot of people have been saying, oh, President Tinubu has not just hit the ground running, he is flying, so they say. That he's keeping campaign promises. Day one, he removed fuel subsidy. He has suspended the CBN governor. His government under his watch has harmonized the exchange rate. The EFCC chairman has been suspended. Certain other measures have been taken. Is he really hitting the ground running, keeping campaign promises, or is he flying, or is taking us for a ride? What do you think?
Well, the truth of the matter is that we have to be sincere that as a president and somebody who has clamored for this for long, haven't gotten the mandate of the people to be the president of Nigeria, you need to show the optics to demonstrate that, look, I'm in charge and I really want to hit the ground running. Yes, he has been hitting the ground running, but I have seen one or two lapses there. Last week, you find out that about 8 advisors were named to advise the president on different aspects of his governance. But I'm surprised to notice that nobody talked about having a legal advisor or having somebody to. Are we now saying that nobody is advising the president on issue of legality, on issue of constitutionalism, on issue of law, despite the fact that you have an advisor on security, which is very germane? Kudos to you. You have advisor on energy, which is needed. You have advisor on intergovernmental relationship, which is needed. You have advisor on health. But the critical point, critical issue, there's no advisor on it. Or are we saying that those who are hard? Because many people may say, anyway, he has lawyers around him that advise him, but are they taking the responsibility? For you to know that this is my responsibility, then it would have been better. That's my little worried about it, that despite the fact you are hitting the ground running from the way you mention it. What about a critical area? We talked about rule of law. We talked about freedom. Nobody up to now is advising the president. After all, the president is not a lawyer. These are the things I really want to say. I know many people may say the chief of staff is a lawyer, but the question is that it's responsibility. Who is responsible for advising the president on rule of law, on law, on justice, and all this? These are the things I believe, and maybe this week he may think toward that. But it's expected. But my fear is, for how long will this honeymoon continue?
Well, Dr. Ajulo, I may just say that the president applied, in the first week in office to the 9th National Assembly to appoint 20 special advisors, and that was approved. One of the last functions of the 9th National Assembly. And on the strength of that, he has appointed 8. So there is still room for 12 more. Also, the Constitution gives him the opportunity to appoint a Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation. Maybe we'll get to that point. But one of the laws that he has signed, one of the bills that he has signed into law is his Students' Loans Bill, otherwise known as Access to Higher Education Bill. Now, that has been very controversial. As you are saying, it's discriminatory. The PTA is saying they hope that this will not lead to higher tuition fees. Some analysts have said, look, this student loans law is not going to help anybody because many families earn more than the 500,000 naira threshold that is prescribed in that bill. And it won't happen for people to pay. And in any case, the Nigerian Students' Loan Board that existed as far back as 1974, 1975, 1980, didn't achieve results. What is the guarantee that signing, approving student loans will solve any problem, one way or the other? What do you think?
Well, I need to say quickly that signing to that student loan law, I come with a great potential. And I think one has to applaud and commend whosoever that come with that initiatives and to ensure that the president sign it. Though, and I think I need to say it in one breath, that there are a lot of issues that need to be resolved, particularly with the Constitution and the way the law is couched, because I think maybe because of as at the time, if you remember, this thing started some years back, about 8 years ago, and maybe because of the hurriedness in quickly making it into law, many things seem to be overlooked in doing that. Particularly, let's start from the issue that by the provision of that law, it has to be only loan for tuition fee. And not only that, those who are eligible to apply for that law has to be in government institutions. And I know, except maybe there are some, but I believe majority, general government institutions don't pay tuition fees. So if you are saying the loan will only be for tuition fee of those in government institution, whereas they don't pay tuition fee, apart from all those sundry fees, then the fear, which I believe I'm nursing now, may be that are we saying that the government is now trying to peg or to charge tuition fee in its government institution? I stand there. If my first degree was from University of Jos, throughout my years there, we never pay a penny as tuition fee, and I believe till now it hasn't happened. So now who we now ask for the loan? That is one. Then second thing, you talked about those who are eligible. Their parents' salary, their parent income should be is pegged to about 500,000. The question is that some people who are even their parents receiving 10 million naira, they are still within the poverty line when you check, particularly taking care of the family, taking and settling many other things. And many other things are there. And I believe what I think, and if I must advise, is there will be a need for quick review of most of the provision of that law. The law, the concept is so great. Like I said earlier, it has to be applauded. These are the things we need. Though somebody asked me that it's like throwing away money, and I said, well, it's better than even the way we have been seeing looting spere. So I think what is needed now is that the National Assembly, having been constituted, need to quickly review and quickly pick all the issues coming up from this law, and to ensure that it is well implemented and serve the Nigerian people. And I believe this shouldn't be the only loan that we should be having. I think it shouldn't even be the loan, though it's called interest-free loan. I think what Nigeria needs, particularly the downtrodden, not loan, but benefit, not loan, to some peg of people, the poor of the poorest. I think they deserve that, and this is what we should be talking about.
Okay, I get your point, in that regard. But ASU is saying specifically, through his president, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, that the loan is discriminatory. He says it's only for indigent students. But ASU is saying, no, it should be for everybody, including students in both public and private schools. What do you think? Is it a violation of Section 42 of the 1999 Constitution?
Section 42 of that 1999 Constitution, when it comes to discrimination is well qualified. And if my knowledge of law really, I'm seeing grasp of it, talk of issue of age, class, race, and co. It depends on the way Professor or Dr. Shudekemi really talked about it. But it is just because of the belief that those in private schools, it is like a choice to some people, and that is what it is. But from my own perspective, I'm not even talking of loan. I'm talking of benefit, particularly when we have a situation where the so-called subsidy has been removed. What I think should be palliative is for the government to work out some benefit regime to all Nigerians in a way to serve as a palliative so that they can be able to live and survive in the country. This is not the issue of of being discriminatory or loan alone. It is about getting some Nigerians some benefit. We can't all have the benefit, but there's a way to peg it and to know who this may be given to.
Okay, well, let me just ask you a couple of other questions before we begin to wrap this up. The National Judicial Council is saying that lawyers should put in applications for, the bench at the Supreme Court level. Are you going to put in an application? And what do you think about that request from the National Judicial Council? Although the big argument on the table is that the NJC itself is in urgent need of reform.
Well, let me start from your first question. I think one tried as much as possible to know himself. I've never given a thought to be on the bench all my life, and I don't think that my thinking has changed. So I don't think that may not be for me. But the truth of the matter here is that when it comes to appointment of the justices, particularly to the Supreme Court, it's governed by the Constitution, and that's Section 231, and the stipulation is so clear there that first, anybody that may apply, that may be considered, must first be a qualified legal practitioner. And what makes a qualified legal practitioner is well stated. And apart from that, that stipulation here is that he must have practiced for nothing less than 15 years. So as it is, it seems that everyone who has fill this gap is qualified to be in Supreme Court. Though I know again that when it comes to making recommendation to the president as a convening authority, the Nigerian Judicial Council has its own guideline. And that guideline is, I believe, this is one of the things what they're doing. So as it is open for those at the bar and on the bench. And it now depends on who comforts to believe this is what I need to do. And I think like I said, we have to be clear about something. Appointment of justices to the Supreme Court is something that seems to be everyone has to participate. The practitioner, the executive, the legislative arms, and the judiciary. So you find out that it seems to be one of the few positions where everybody concerned, all the stakeholders will participate. And the essence of this is to ensure that whosoever that will sit on that exact place must be someone that's so qualified and so deserves it.
Okay, Dr. Ajulo, let me smuggle you something very briefly, since it's right down your territory. The Senator Muhammad Adamu Bukachua case, who at the valedictory session of the Senate, the 9th National Assembly, said, he was using his position to influence his wife, my Lord Justice Bukachua, in her position as president of the Court of Appeal. Now, the same Senator Bukachua has come forward now to say, he didn't say so. He was quoted out of contest. But the Benuwaboeze Center, in a statement signed by Chijioke Okoli and in interventions by other lawyers, including the NBA, they're saying, look, no, this must be investigated. If the husband said this about the wife, he must know something because it has implications for the integrity of the judiciary. Very briefly, what do you think? Because I know that the public now will begin to discuss Senator Adamu Bukachua's vote verse.
Well, I must be sincere that this matter is already given a limelight and is in front burner. But I believe what you're asking me is my opinion as a lawyer and some as one of the stakeholders. Now, let me start from this point that under the context where the Senator Bukachua may make his presentation is before the chambers of the National Assembly, that is the Senate, and I know that he has some kind of privilege which we may not know how to interpret that when it comes to that. That's first. Then secondly, the second leg of his explanation is that he's making an explanation that he wasn't allowed to finish what he's about to say. And I think I've listened to that video very well and his second explanation. As it is, one may not be able to now stand to say this is what really happened. But for those asking that whether it should be investigated or whether it should be checked, I think we need to be guided by law. And I believe that is what I think I need to say about that.
Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Kayode Ajulo, for joining us on this Live Day Sunday Talk Show here on our Rise News channel.